Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Redfield1998, and today we're going to be reading Memory Card. I hope you guys sit back, relax, and let's start off this little memory card. A few weeks ago, my parents were driving up to see my cousins. We always visit them during the summer. On the way there, we drove through a little village. Some church up by the road was having a car boot sale. A massive banner told us it was afraid of charity. My dad parked the car and got out, eager to have a little sniff around. He always had a little thing for raking through people's old stuff and finding hidden treasure. While he was off treasure hunting, I decided to go off on my little own wander. Most of the stuff on sale was usually crap, cakes, ugly crockery, junk, etc. Someone was holding off a raffle. An old woman was painting kids' faces, but only seemed to know how to only do one animal. They were zebra-faced. There were zebra-faced kids everywhere. I remember a couple standing over the happening sense of a community. There was just a man and a woman with dead eyes, taking no interest in their customers at all. All they did was stare into the distance. Their table was full of kids' junk. You know, toys, magazines, crap PlayStation games, the usual. There were a lot of those Army Men games. A few sports games, as well as I reckoned I missed all the good stuff. I was losing interest when I spotted an old PlayStation memory card out of the corner of my eye. Written on the flap of the tipped X was the name Sam. Now this was a real hidden treasure. I bought it from the couple and tucked it into my wallet. Neither said a word or looked at me when they took my money. After that, I found my parents once more. Eventually, we got back to the car and we were once again on our way to my cousin's house. We stayed there for a few days. I enjoyed hanging out with my cousins, so I was quickly to forget about my purchase. In addition, neither had a PlayStation, so it didn't matter anyway. When I got back home, I retrieved my old PlayStation from the attic and set it up. I had kept a few games too. I had all the classics: Resident Evil, Final Fantasy, Tomb Raider, Metal Gear Solid, Future Cop, etc. However, before I could play any of them, I turned on the console without a disc. I remember that you could do this if you checked the contents of your memory card. I stuck Sam's into the slot and selected it. There were also a few save files on it. Some were corrupt, just strange symbols hanging out that displayed a strange series out of characters instead of details. Others were games that I had never heard of. However, there was one I recognized: Metal Gear Solid. It was the VR missions disc, to be precise. It said it had been completed 100%. I have both Metal Gear Solid and the VR missions, so I decided to check it out. I could remember quite a bit of the VR missions disc, but parts of it stuck out on me were the giant soldiers, the murder mysteries, and the photo shoot mode. I remember they were actually a lot of fun. I booted the game up. When I loaded the save, something odd happened. The title music stopped. This sound especially weirded because I had turned up the volume on my TV so I could get right into the game. But there I was, suddenly plunged into silence. On top of that, there was no sound effects as I scrolled through the menu option. It was a little eerie, but I chalked it up to the game or the console being old or worn out. I remember you could wait for Naomi's legs to uncross to take a photo in photo shoot mode, and there was nothing there except a blank space where a blank should have been. It was a little empty void by the creators and disappointing. A million pubescent kids. Amused, I loaded up photoshoot mode and selected Naomi as my model. When the level loaded, I remember thinking the music sounded a little strange. It was nothing eerie, just a little odd. Maybe it was slightly down or something. Again, I chalked it up either way of the game or the console's old age. I made Snake dug down and looked through the viewfinder, staring at Naomi's crotch and waited for her to uncross her legs. I was determined to get the snap that had destroyed my perverted hopes and dreams all those years ago. It took longer than I thought, and the first time it happened, I missed it. Waiting again, I almost missed the second time. Luckily, my reflexes had been sharpened by generations of gaming. Gotcha! Click. A perfect snap of the little black zone where her blank should have been. I smiled to myself and shook my head. It was funny that I'd gotten so excited over something all those years ago. I could hear her crying. There were little sniffles and shorts and takes of breath. At first, I had no idea where it was coming from. For a moment, I noticed it was behind me. Then I realized it was coming from the game. I remember getting confused, sitting there listening to some voice coming from my TV speakers. I just couldn't work out why it's happening. It started to get louder and a little bit more hysterical. I figured it was coming from Naomi. I tilted the camera upwards, wondering what the fuck's going on. Just as I got her face, a horrible wail from toward my speakers and scared the shit out of me. Naomi was screaming at me. I just had time to register her twisted mouth and her horrible eyes when I gazed and dropped the controller. It landed on the ground on a button and the game came out of viewfinder mode. Snake was just kneeling there in front of her. I stood there, shaking, watching the characters seem to stare at one another. I could no longer see Naomi's face. I could tell if she just had a horrible look across it. There was no one in my house. My parents were both still at work. I jumped forward and turned the TV console off. A little while later, I was lying on my bed, thinking about that horrible face. What dawned on me that the characters in the game don't actually have eyes. It's just darkened shade of pixels. Their mouths never opened either. They just nodded their heads whenever they talked. Naomi's mouth, however, had been twisted open and her eyes were almost photorealistic. What the fuck? After a while, I'd convinced myself that I had imagined the horrible details. You always go through the situation like that. It was just some lame kid's save that he had somehow fucked with and managed to scare the shit out of me with. I wonder what else he had managed to do with VR missions. Later that night, when my parents were home, I finally got the nerve to turn the console back on. I selected photoshoot mode and chose Naomi as my model again. When the level loaded, I knew right away that something was wrong. The stage was empty except for Snake. Naomi was nowhere to be seen. There was no music either. It was just like the title screen. I ran around and the footsteps sounded louder than they ever should have been. They sounded real too, like high-quality sound effect recorded in a great hall. The whole thing was a little unnerving, but I kept to myself that it was just some whiz kid's stupid experiment. Still, I couldn't shake the horrible sensation that someone else was playing. There was nothing on the stage except Snake. I decided to go through the camera's viewfinder again to scan for the levels of, well, anything panning around. I realized that all those graphics that usually floated in the background were all gone. All the scrolling information wasn't there. The level just floating in black, silent abyss. Still panning, I suddenly spotted something in the distance, a vague shape in the darkness. Before I could focus on what it was gone. I had no idea what I saw, but it reminded me of one of those ghosts from Metal Gear Solid you could see if you took photographs in the right places. However, you could only see them when you left the game and examined the photos in the in-game photo album. They had been really creepy. I remembered when I was a kid, I stopped looking for them because one had scared the shit out of me. Still, facing that horrible abyss, I took a photo roughly in the space when I saw something happen. I turned around and started taking photos all around me. A few being Naomi was supposed to be standing. I left the game afterwards. I was relieved to get out of that horrible place. The menu wasn't still playing any music. There was no sound effect when I was scrolling through. Either I loaded up the photo album and began to shuffle through pictures. The first one I was on the abyss was surrounded the level. Or at least, I think that's what it was. It was just a black image with no features. There were a few more like this, too. I remember you could mess with the colors and contrast, so I played around with it, hoping it would do something. Nothing materialized. Eventually, I gave up. I scrolled to the next image. The first shot where Naomi should have been standing was what I faced was something completely different. It was a picture of a little boy tied up against the bed. It wasn't an in-game photo, but a real one. It was a real boy on a real bed with real ropes. The picture was slightly pixelated, but nothing compared to the low resolution of the game. Just at the edge of the picture, I could make out a leg. Someone was standing by the bedside. Something told me to turn off the game. Something darker told me to scroll to the next photo. I lifted to the latter. The next photo made my stomach jump. Gloved hands were holding the boy's eyes open. They were forcing him to look at something off camera. The boy's expression of WS of absolute terror. A part of me was glad I couldn't see what I saw. I continued scrolling. They were torturing him now, cutting open his skin and mutilating him in ways I wouldn't describe. The photos only became more and more disturbing, never letting up. Each one was worse than the last. They violated him and tortured his young body. I never seen anything like it. I never knew humans were capable of such acts. My body was shaking and my hands couldn't barely hold on to the controller. But I kept scrolling through the pictures. I wasn't able to stop myself. I came to another image. I was revealed to see that it was no longer the boy. This relief, however, was short-lived. I squinted at the screen, wondering exactly what I was looking at. Then it hit me. My insides did a little wet flip and I froze. I dropped the controller again. No buttons being pressed when I hit the floor at the time. I was staring at the image, mouthing, "What the fuck?" to myself over and over. I stayed like this for a while, my body completely functionless as I gaped through the screen. It was a shot of Naomi with her legs uncrossed. It was the very first photo I had taken switching on the game. It was the photo that had started this horrible journey now. However, I could actually see her blank. It was a real image of a blank, not pixelated or anything. It was just sitting right in front of me. Incredible detail. If I were still a teenager, I'm sure I would have been delighted if all my hard work had paid off. I'm pretty sure every kid who tried getting a photo of her snatched back then would have felt the same, especially when compared to the black void that too many of us actually faced. However, I was far more aroused than this situation. I noticed that blank was moving with every breath as I was watching a movie instead of an image. It was like some Voyager spy cam or something that was squelching. As I sat there, speechless, blood slowly streaked from the inside, dripping over her lips and legs, spreading fast. When her blanket was completely caked in red, Naomi finally began to move her body. She was slowly leaning towards the camera. I didn't want to see her face, but I couldn't look away. Then she was screaming and staring at me with those horrible eyes and twisted mouth. She wasn't looking at the camera, but at me. I screamed back before she lunged. Out of nowhere, I found strength. I watched as my arm shot out from my body and hit the power button. Her scream cut short. The screen went blank. I tore this memory card from its slot and held it through with some powdered drug. I realized I was breathing heavily. I kept staring at the name Sam in white, tipped X as my lungs gradually relaxed. I never plugged it back in. This was the last time I ever played VR missions. I still had the memory card in my drawer, but I dared to open it, as part of me wants to bind it to the damn thing, but the other part won't let me. Maybe one day, I'll give it another go, just to see how messed up the rest of the in-game is. Perhaps I'll buy some of the other games to see how fucked up Sam's saves were. Maybe I'll try figuring out what games are the other ones. Corrupt saves are for maybe. For now, well, the memory card can't stay in the drawer until I'm ready. Well, guys, that's pretty much memory card. It had its ups and downs. I mean, like, for example, garage sale, going through town right there. It's like, yeah, you can understand, but again, it sounds like pretty much like your typical story. Like, oh, I found it over here by pretty much a garage sale. Oh no, I bought it over here on eBay. Like, yeah, like, it's pretty good. It's pretty not. Except right there, pretty much like, there's pretty much right there when pretty much went into a little bit of gore. It was getting good, but then when they brought in the blood and gore, like, it became a little bit cliche-ish. If you guys know what I mean. And after that, like, Yeah, everybody tried looking down there, but I mean, really, put the image right there, and then blood coming out of nowhere, dude. It's like, at least you're trying, but again, just like don't like it would work a little bit better if you kept on going with a little bit more of the psychological instead of the physical. Because like, oh no, blood coming out of nowhere. Oh no, pretty much random images, which yeah, the PS1 can handle, but it won't handle it like photorealistically. And also that's the thing, photorealistically, it really pretty much like that kind of kills the mood about it too. Oh no, photorealistic eyes, photorealistic body, like it kind of kills it too. But hey, if you pretty much, it's still pretty good, but it has a little bit of cliches. But either way, it's still pretty good. But either way, guys, that's it. That's memory card. If you guys liked what you saw, hit that like button. It really helps me out a lot. Go right there down in the comment section below. Pretty much comment, see what I did right, see what I did wrong, and tell me, guys, what another kind of creepypasta you guys would like me to read. Until then, guys, also hit the subscribe button. That really helps me out a lot. But until then, guys, I'll talk to you guys next time. Later. Before I forget, the link's gonna be down in the down in the description if you guys also want to read it. I forgot to say that. But either way, guys, like, comment, and subscribe for more of these kinds of videos. I'm gonna start doing these kinds of videos every Friday around 7 or 8. Those are the days that these kind of videos are gonna be uploaded. But until then, guys, talk to you guys next time.